It's Monday, March 22nd, and let's talk about spring break. You're listening to Fight Knows About Everything, a Night Shift Radio original. For more information, visit nightshiftradio.com. So spring break is upon us, and this is really, I would say, truly the first spring break of COVID, as the first spring break happened while things were shutting down. You know, we were only about a week or so into, the world shutting down, and most places still didn't shut down during that month, that March period. California being one of the earliest, New York State being one of the second earliest of actually shutting down. California shut down in late February, early March, whereas New York shut down right around mid-March. So, spring break was still happening in a lot of places, most specifically Florida. So we're going to talk about all the events that happened in Florida over the past weekend. So this past weekend, Miami County and the city of Miami actually declared a state of emergency due to the result of an overwhelming population of spring break attendees and partiers. There were riots. There were people trashing restaurants. There was fights and stuff like that. It's an insane story that even outside of just the fact that it's in the middle of a global like we're still in a pandemic, the fact that this happened is just insane to me. So Miami County. No, here's the other thing about this. Now, a lot of these protesters, or I'm sorry, they're not protesters. A lot of these spring breakers have come here, and they are, they're not wearing masks. They're flouting all of the rules. Like, they're not following any of the social guidelines as set forth by either the CDC or the government of Florida, which, by the way, is still doing terrible. They're reporting almost 1,000 cases a day, still having deaths. I mean, Miami-Dade County had just 900 cases reported literally the other day. Like, they're still doing pretty bad. They're still up there. They're in the top 15 of the states that are showing the least amount of decline in cases. I mean, it's pretty bad. There was a huge spike in January, and although cases have gone down, they're still seeing, Florida, by the way, is seeing an average of 4,500 new cases a day. 4,500 new cases a day. Ridiculous. But the city of Miami imposed an 8 p.m. curfew on Saturday in the South Beach Entertainment District, with closures of major causeways to control an overwhelming spring break crowd. The city decided to extend their curfew for at least a week and up to April 12th. Some colleges, not all colleges go on spring break at the same time. So whereas some are starting this week, others are starting next week. So this is where they're trying to balance it out to really dissipate the crowds. On Friday night, partying crowds broke into street fights, trashed restaurants, and gathered without wearing masks or social distancing. And again, South Florida already is a huge hotspot for COVID outbreaks. Now, obviously, in the future, in roughly 2 weeks' time, we're going to see a huge spike in cases. But the biggest issue with this, and I think this is the one that's the most troubling and which shows a real big sense of selfishness, is that these people probably don't live in Florida. So they're going to go to Florida, completely disavow the rules, catch COVID, go back home to whatever state they live in, and then we're going to see a spike there because they're going to go ahead and give it off to whoever they're with, whether that's, grandma, the grocery store worker, the Starbucks employee, or whatever that is. And that's where we're going to see those flare-ups again. So these are those sort of activities that people have been warning against and saying, like, hey, we know it sucks, but you don't understand the small impact that you doing this does, because these people are going to get on a plane. Now, everyone in the plane that's infected, so let's say it's, grandma flying home or something, from Florida or whatever it is. Now, everyone on that plane's infected, and then they're going to go home and spread it to those people, and then those people, blah, 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 and then we get this increase. Now, vaccines are going great. We have just talked about that it's 100 million shots have been administered. Now, as a point of clarity, because a lot of people seem to be getting this confused, and this does in no means diminish the amazing effect of this, but 100 million shots does not mean that it is 100 million people vaccinated. That would be 30% of the population of the United States. 100 million shots, and I remember almost all of the shots require 2 shots. So it's actually something closer to like 65 to 70 million people have actually received their vaccine. So, we still have a very large portion of the population to go before we're anywhere in the safety or clear where we can do things like what Texas is doing by completely lifting all regulations. I think despite Cuomo's current situation. I think, that rollout is happening very similar to how some other states that have seen success is, where you lift little things here and there, you reduce things as your population goes. New York State is doing fantastic in terms of vaccines, issuing tons and tons, like thousands are getting rolled out. There's so many sites. Like, I live in a very small part of central New York, and there are thousands of appointments available daily. We have sites running 24 hours, and there are multiple locations within a good 30 to 40 minute drive of actual, central New York, where you can go to get a vaccine. So that's pretty fantastic. But again, the whole idea behind this is that these events like spring break, and even here in Syracuse, Syracuse just entered top 16 of the basketball tournament, and we saw people outside of Syracuse University partying without masks on and stuff like that, and that is going to cause a spike as well. We are going to see a spike in a couple of weeks in Syracuse, in the Syracuse area, in Onondaga County, because of those sort of events. And look, man, it's been a year, and we totally get it. Everyone wants to go out and hang out. We're done. We're tired. We're lonely. We're anxious. We've been locked up for too long. I get it, but we're at the finish line. We need to take a break. We need to take some time before we go off and do these crazy things, because all we're going to do is set ourselves back, and we don't want to do that. We want to cut it. We want to keep the pace exactly as we can. However, I am not an entomologist. I am not working for the CDC. I am just following guidelines that they've been put out, and the proof that they can show that these sort of activities always ends up being spikes, especially when people are not wearing masks. So everyone, thanks a lot for joining me for this one. If you're listening on YouTube, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that little notification bell so that way you get notified when the next episode is available. I drop episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but also on our channel on Thursdays and Sundays. The Never Heard of It podcast drops their podcast reviews on movies you might not have heard of. Just this past Sunday, they dropped Rachel Getting Married. It's a really great Anne Hathaway film, which also has Sebastian Stan, who recently made his appearance in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So comment down below, what was your favorite part of Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I want to know. I loved it, but tell me what you thought was really great. And for those of you listening on your podcast player of choice, don't forget to subscribe. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review. But of course, if you want to talk and get into the talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier, you can tweet at me at @TheMichaelFight over on Twitter. Thanks a lot for joining me, everyone, and I will see you Wednesday.